Qatar is a key mediator in the security issue between the M23 and the DRC government.
Recapping the top story this hour, European Council President Antonio Costa says Africa is central to Europe's global strategy. Speaking in Johannesburg, South Africa, he highlighted the significance of major international summits now being hosted on the continent. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, Didi Jordan and co-accused fraud trial has been delayed again. Victor Perez says goodbye to PGA Tour, DP World Tour and moves to LIV. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Business, trade, and investment opportunities that put the continent first. Africa in Business with Tami Ngubeni.
It is a very good afternoon to you, Nigeria. Good afternoon, Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, Eritrea. Good afternoon to you, Lesotho. Good afternoon, Egypt. Good afternoon, Africa. Welcome to Africa in Business on Channel Africa. I'm Tami Ngubeni. A lot in store for you today. We'll kick off with our usual weekly business roundup. That's with Victor Khomoswana, focusing this afternoon on stories coming out of Rwanda, Ghana, as well as Zimbabwe and Morocco. But as to be expected, all eyes on the G20 summit, the Leaders Summit, which kicks off in Johannesburg tomorrow. We'll be touching base with our reporter, Nhlanhla Mahlangu, who is on the ground in Nasrec as preparations get underway. And also we'll be crossing over to Lagos Talk, and we'll be finding out from them what their expectations are, as we've said, and as it's been said so many times, that this is indeed an Africa G20, with the African Union now officially being there. So Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. Looking forward to chatting to you shortly. It's 8 minutes after 4.
This weekend, South Africa will host the G20 Summit at the Nasrec Expo Center near Soweto. And Channel Africa will be right there to bring you live updates, interviews, and real-time insights from the main venue. And so, our regular lineup will be adjusted just a little bit for this weekend to accommodate the G20. On Saturday, the 22nd of November, the Oasis will broadcast for 2 hours. Out and About takes a break for a full look at the G20. After Africa Chart Toppers, our news and current affairs team will bring you special live broadcasts in 5 different languages directly from Nasrec. And normal programming will resume at 8 p.m. Central African Time. And then on Sunday, the 23rd of November, the Oasis will also broadcast for 2 hours. Tech Africa steps aside for our news and current affairs teams to bring you special live broadcasts in 5 different languages. Then, Planting the Seed resumes from 1 p.m. till 2 p.m. Central African Time. Channel Africa, your window to the continent, connecting you to the world in an African perspective. Africa in Business.
It is exactly 9 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African Time. The Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, has just concluded a 2-day official visit to Rwanda, a trip that underscores deepening ties between Doha and Kigali. Now, this visit comes at a pivotal moment, reflecting not only growing economic cooperation, but also a shared vision of peace, stability, and sustainable development in the region. It also comes at a time when the region is grappling with ongoing crisis in the eastern part of the DRC, to which Qatar has been playing a very central role in mediating the warring parties. Sylvanus Karamera reports from Kigali.
Bilateral relations between Rwanda and Qatar have strengthened across key sectors such as aviation, security, hospitality, and investment. Earlier this year, the Qatar government approved a draft agreement for mutual visa exemption, making travel easier for Rwandan citizens. Qatar's involvement is not purely symbolic. The two nations are already working together on tangible projects. Qatar Airways has resumed direct flights to Kigali, operating 4 flights a week, a move expected to boost both tourism and business connectivity. Adam Zikwizera is a journalist in Kigali. I asked him how he touts this visit by the Qatar leader to Rwanda.
This visit carries a great deal of political, economic, and diplomatic weight. And this also marks a milestone in the growing partnership between Kigali and Doha. It's a very meaningful visit. Like for their side, they named it friendly visit. This is a very timely visit, as Qatar is a key mediator in the security issue between the M23 and the DRC government.
In addition, Doha is heavily involved in Rwanda's infrastructure investment. Qatar is holding a 60% stake in Rwanda's upcoming Bugesera International Airport, a project that could make Kigali a major regional aviation hub. Security cooperation is another pillar of this growing partnership. Rwanda and Qatar recently signed a memorandum of understanding to boost capacity building between their internal security forces. As he concludes his trip to Kigali, the leader of state of Qatar has left for Kinshasa, a move that some analysts believe aims at trying to defuse the ongoing crisis in the Great Lakes region, specifically between Rwanda and the DRC. I spoke to James Munyaneza in Kigali, a political analyst and senior editor.
I think it is on record, it is well known that Rwanda and Qatar maintain a very solid bilateral ties across different sectors of the economy. The two countries have been working this so closely. As a matter of fact, yesterday, one of the engagements that the two leaders were involved in is the President Kagame, taking the emir of Qatar to his farm just outside of Kigali, where he gifted him with the Inyambo cows. And in our culture, this culture, Nyambo gifting a cow to this is normally done to a friend, a very good friend for that matter.
And lastly, we also understand that since June there have been some push or calls for this matter for the two presidents, President Paul Kagame of Rwanda and the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi, to meet. They were supposed to be meeting in Washington around June, but so far this meeting has not materialized. So do you think the leader of Qatar, having been coming to Rwanda and finally leaving for Kinshasa, do you see this meeting happening soon, or is it possible? Or in your opinion, what is likely to happen after the visit of the leader of the state of Qatar?
I believe that the visit by the Emir of Qatar will go a long way in helping to create a conducive environment for these leaders eventually to meet and whatever arrangement, let's say in this case, the Washington process, to finally reach a settlement, a political, peaceful settlement to the crisis.
Again, according to Ali bin Hamad Al Aida at the Qatari embassy in Kigali, the Emir's visit reflects the vision of the state of Qatar, one of openness to Africa and a desire to expand partnership based on trust and common interests. Silvanus Karemera, reporting for Channel Africa in Kigali.
It is exactly 14 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time, and a very good Friday, and should I say a wet Friday afternoon to you, Victor Khumuswana, author of Africa is Open for Business and Africa Bounces Back. How are the G20 excitement levels for you?
Social network of the nations of the world that are trying to create a new world order. Good afternoon, Tammy, by the way. It's good to talk to you again. I think, I'm just fascinated that Donald Trump thought he could stop the party because he's the owner of the ball. He's the rich kid. He owns the ball. He's not being put on the team, and he's going to take the ball and go home. And the party is just going on without him. But, yeah, I think it's the way the world is going to work. Multilateralism is the way to go. And these are nations that are trying to agree, find a consensus on how we should conduct the affairs of the world. And yeah, we have to be excited about it, especially as a South African, because that kind of tourism is excellent for the economy.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Not very excellent news, it looks like, for Visit Rwanda and their sponsorship deal that they've had with Arsenal. So give us a bit more details with that. Who decided to end this partnership? Is it Arsenal that's decided to end it, or is it Visit Rwanda who says that they're done?
It's Arsenal, definitely Arsenal. Arsenal is the 4 teams that had the Visit Rwanda on their sleeve as a sponsor. They pay, I think, the word that's been bandied about that, about £10 million. But yeah, that is a £10 million. It's been going on for nearly 10 years. And Bayern Munich was also one country. One team in the Bundesliga, and then you have now. I think the 2 active teams will be Atletico Madrid in La Liga. They are still on, and PSG in France. So 4 of the major leagues had an Arsenal sponsorship deal. But the pressure, the allegations of human rights abuse against Rwanda made Bayern Munich to stop the jersey sponsorship deal, but they're still involved in Rwanda in some development, soccer development. Then Arsenal is also having to pull out because it looks like they surveyed some of the fans and 90% of people were against the deal because of the allegations. But here's an interesting twist and why I brought it onto the story. Arsenal is owned by an American real estate billionaire called Stan Kroenke. And when they cancel the deal now, there are 2 teams in the U.S., one in the NBA, that's the LA Clippers, and the other one is Los Angeles Rams. It's a National Football League team. These teams in September announced a jersey sponsorship deal. And both of them are owned by, among other people, surprise, surprise, Stan Kroenke. So he's sort of just moved the sponsorship money from one team that he owns in the UK, which is Arsenal, to the US, where he has now got LA Clippers, which is in the NBA, and LA Rams. LA Rams is in the NFL. Now, NFL can draw crowds of 120 million when we're talking Super Bowl. That's the final championship game. So I don't know. I don't think Rwanda is not really losing because it is looking to attract high-end tourists. And if you're going to be advertising in the NBA and the NFL while you are still advertising in La Liga and in what's the other? In Liga, in France, you are still just going to even, but it's going to have to address the allegations sooner or later because it can't keep being seen as a controversial client like that.
But also, as you say, after a 10-year relationship, it is perhaps worth Visit Rwanda's time and effort to now look at new territories that they can now continue promoting in. But let's move to Morocco now. And one of the major construction and infrastructure companies in Morocco, Société Générale des Travaux du Maroc, which is SGTM.
Wow, okay, tell me, okay, oui. Now that's good. Yeah, Capital Markets Authority, that is what the regulatory authority of the listings. This is a $540 million IPO, the public offering. That is what if they sell all the 12 million shares that are going to be part of this. And it's only 20% of this company. So they are not selling. They are not opening everything to the public, but from December 1st to December 8th, they'll be open. They are hoping to get that kind of, they say they're trying to firm up their structure, their financial structure, and broaden their shareholder base and promote transparency. When you start listing, you're going to have to answer to the public effectively because everybody's watching you, and your appointments have to be a lot more transparent. So it's good for the company that once you've made your money, but to be able to raise $540 million in one IPO, and yet you are giving up only 20%, that's good business for the Casablanca Stock Exchange. And it's just one of those stock markets that are connecting and are able to benefit from Europe and Africa at the same time.
And looking at Ghana, their economy grew by 5.1% in August of 2025. What can that be attributed to?
This is amazing. 9.6% growth in services, and that is 4.80 percentage points. So of the 5.1%, 4.08 from one sector, services. And then the other one is from, I think, now it's agriculture, which grew by about 7.4%. And I mean, Ghana is highly indebted. So when you get a 5% percentage growth of the economy, it's good because eventually it will generate enough value and at least be able to pay off some of the debt. It has been going to the markets to raise money to pay off debt. So it's not a good picture. But the industrial sector is shrinking by about 1.08%, which is worrying because manufacturing industrial sector will be where you get the industrialization going. At least if the economy is growing, 1 year it will be another sector and the other one. But I'm just glad that Ghana is registering growth because it really needs that kind of growth for this moment where it is, considering how indebted it has been over the past 10 years.
And let's wrap up with Zimbabwe. The debt management still is a huge concern for the country, despite the fact that inflation has dropped.
You know what? This is a good news story for Zimbabwe. And this is the report by the Confederation of Zimbabwean Industries. So it's not the government reporting this. It's a private sector saying 82.7%. This is now the way inflation was in September. It has dropped to 32.7. And you know, when inflation drops that phenomenally, it tells you that the buying power of the currency is recovering. And what makes the currency to have buying power or to preserve its buying power or grow it? It's when people have confidence. Why would they have confidence? To summarize, the ZiG is backed by the gold that Zimbabwe has. And that's why I'm a fan of the ZiG, because it's not just subjecting the markets to the fiat or the vagaries of the fiat currency. It's saying Zimbabwe has a lot of gold. Let's use it to back our currency. That way people are more relaxed because they know that Zimbabwe has gold, both in the vaults and underground. So when you pay or you use the Zimbabwean dollar, you are likely to be having that guarantee. The gold standard used to be the way we did business in Africa before America interfered and made us to rely on the dollar. So this is excellent. The GDP, according to the IMF, is over $50 billion. It was about $13 billion in 2020. That's a massive growth, both on the GDP side, but also inflation coming down. It's expected to be between 15 and 20% by the end of this year.
Oh, good news stories, definitely for Zimbabwe. I mean, they're really having an influx of positivity. We've been talking about Aliko Dangote and his investment in the country. We've been talking about the increase as far as the value of the ZiG is concerned and the stability therein. So really looking like Zimbabwe is on the up and up. Victor Khomuswana, always a pleasure.
Talking to you. Let's talk after the G20 time. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Certainly. Thank you so much. Victor Khomuswana, author of Africa is Open for Business and Africa Bounces Back. He's also the Executive Director for Marketing and Communication at the University of Limpopo. And as you heard at the tail end of that, when we next speak to Victor, we'll round up some of the key outcomes that came out of the G20 Leaders Summit, which begins tomorrow in Johannesburg, South Africa. It's exactly 23 minutes after 4 p.m.
dziko lapansi likuyang'ana mzinda wa johannesburg. Atsogoleri ochokera m'mayiko akuluakulu azachuma pa dziko lapansi akumana kukambirana njira zomwe zingasinthe mayiko, misika komanso zatsogolo la mayiko. Mukudziwa kale kuti Channel Africa idzakhala komweko kukubweretserani zokambirana zamkatinkati komanso akatswiri kusanthula zomwe zili zofunikira. Msonkhano wa G20 kuyambira pa 22 pakana pa 23 mwezi wa Novembala monga momwe ukuchitikira. Karani cheru ku Channel Africa, kalilole wa Africa.
Africa means business. Tune into Africa in Business with Tami Ngubeni for the future of the African economy. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Now, on the eve of the G20 summit, South Africa's strong calls are emerging for urgent, fair and well-financed energy development across the continent. Leaders say Africa cannot industrialize or compete globally without reliable, affordable and secure energy access for its people. These calls came out of the G20 African Energy Investment Forum, which is currently underway in Johannesburg. Our reporter, Lebohang Mabange, has more.
The G20 African Energy Investment Forum is gathering African policymakers, global investors and energy executives to push for a new deal on energy access and infrastructure funding. Speaking at the forum, NADO's Begele Thomas, CEO of the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, said Africa's energy potential remains largely untapped while millions still live without electricity.
Africa possesses 60% of the world's best solar resources, vast, untapped hydropower, significant reserves of natural gas, and the critical minerals essential for the green transition. Yet nearly 600 million of our people still lack access to reliable electricity. This is not merely a developmental challenge. It is the single greatest impediment to our industrialization.
South Africa's Minister of Energy and Electricity, Josienzo Ramokgopa, said unlocking Africa's youth, resources and economic strength starts with fixing the continent's energy deficit.
Our continent is rising. Our young people are declaring their place in the world. Our economies are poised to transform. Our resources, our ingenuity, and our determination are unmatched. And yet, the full potential of Africa will remain unrealized until energy becomes abundant, accessible, affordable, and secure.
Ramokgopa added that Africa's energy transition must center justice and sovereignty.
The world is transforming at an extraordinary pace. Yet, for Africa, the energy transition is not a technical puzzle or an abstract policy debate. It is a profound struggle for justice. It is a fight for dignity. It is a declaration of sovereignty. It is a refusal to accept that a continent so rich in sunlight can remain trapped in darkness, or that a people so rich in ingenuity can remain restricted by the limits of infrastructure they did not choose.
Meanwhile, Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources Gwede Mantashe urged African countries to collaborate instead of competing against one another for investment.
One of the issues that will help us as a continent is to work together. Because if we don't work together, we engage in what I describe as race to the bottom, where people offer conditions that are not optimal for every country. We're talking to these countries and we say to them, if Namibia, if Angola works with other countries right to Zambia to open the Lobito corridor, do develop the Lobito corridor, but remember not to emphasize pit to port in terms of your mining approach.
With the G20 Leaders Summit now hours away, the message that's coming out of this forum is that Africa wants investment, justice and a fair energy transition that powers its development. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Johannesburg, South Africa.
It is exactly 28 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. Still coming up this afternoon on Africa in Business. We do know that senior figures from business, government and the technology sectors have gathered in Johannesburg for a really high-level dialogue that's been taking place on the sidelines of the G20. We're talking about the B20 South Africa Summit. We'll be giving you more insight and details on exactly what it is that's transpiring and some of the recommendations that are coming out of the B20. Also, a bit later on today, we'll be having a simulcast with Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. So just introductory conversations this afternoon as all of Africa is standing to attention as the G20 Leaders Summit kicks off proper in Nasrec. That's right, Nasrec, Johannesburg tomorrow. But for now, let's take you through to the markets desk where we'll be taking a look at the latest market indicators. A very good afternoon to you, Tabiso Lehoko.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, this is Tammy, and good afternoon. $1 in South Africa is trading at 17 Rand 20. In Botswana, it's at 13 Pula 47, Namibia 17 Namibian dollars 20, and in Zambia, it's at 22 Kwacha 86 to the dollar. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 979. In Ethiopia, it's at 154 birr 636. Uganda, 3,000 shilling 626, and in Tanzania, it is at 2,000 shilling 426. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,453 naira. In Egypt, it's at 47 Egyptian pound 37. Tunisia, 2 dinar 951. Algeria, 129 dinar 848. And the Moroccan dirham is at 9,168 to the US dollar. In Angola, the dollar is trading at 912 kwanza, while the Congolese franc is at 2,200 to the US dollar. Commodities markets: gold $4,060, platinum $1,509 per ounce, Brent crude oil is at $62.97 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabisolo Hoku.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Your life, your rhythm, your Africa. Channel Africa. Find it for free on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
And for the latest from the business of sport, here is Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon, Tami. We begin with football news. The ongoing fraud court case against South African Football Association SAFA President Danny Jordan and his 3 co-accused has been further delayed. This matter will now be heard on the 9th of December, while the prosecution hopes to set a trial date when the 4 accused reappear on the 11th of February 2026. One of the accused, director and owner of Grid Communications, Trevor Nietling, has asked the Palm Ridge Magistrate Court for the prosecutors to recuse himself. Jordan, SAFA CFO Groni Hluyo Nietling, as well as former SAFA acting CEO Russell Paul, face multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy to commit fraud related to the alleged misappropriation of $75,000 in SAFA resources. Premier League leaders Arsenal will end their partnership deal with Rwanda at the end of this season. The Visit Rwanda partnership, signed 8 seasons ago, had increasingly come under scrutiny due to spiraling violence in mineral-rich Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, which borders Rwanda. Arsenal fans in April protested against the ongoing partnership, which involved the Visit Rwanda logo being carried on the sleeves of the player's jersey. The Rwanda Development Board said in a statement that Arsenal and Rwanda Development Board have mutually agreed to conclude their partnership at the end of the season, bringing to a close an 8-season collaboration that included Visit Rwanda as Arsenal's first official sleeve partner. Rwanda still has other partnerships with European giants Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, and with Atletico Madrid. Some more football news. Birmingham City has revealed new images of their planned 62,000-seater stadium. The stadium was announced during a launch event on Thursday and is to be developed by Heatherwick Studio and Manica Architecture. It is said to be the centerpiece of the Sports Quartet project that the club's chairperson and co-owner Tom Wagner is leading, which will also incorporate a women's stadium and other entertainment venues and will cost approximately $1.5 billion. Now, tennis news. The 2025 Davis Cup Championships and champions will bag $2 million. The figure is slightly less than what Italy took home last year, the amount of $2.7 million. Spain and Germany will face off in the semi-finals for the Davis Cup after coming through respective last 8 ties in Bologna with the Czech Republic and Argentina. Well, number 1, Carlos Alcaraz is one of the 3 top 10 players to have dropped out of the Davis Cup finals in northern Italy, where fans have also been denied the chance to see Jannik Sinner and Lorenzo Musetti play for the Azzurri. Here is the laydown of the Davis Cup Final 2025 payout structure. Champions will go home with $2 million and runners-up $1.5 million. Semi-finalists, 750,000 US dollars, and the quarterfinalists, 500,000 US dollars. And golf news. French golfer Victor Perez has walked away from the tour system that gave him the stage, becoming the first French player to sign with Live Golf, despite sitting at 122nd in the world rankings. The Live Golf is the biggest payday of the international series and is up for grabs at this week's finale in Saudi Arabia. There's a total purse of $5 million at the Saudi International, with the champion walking away with a check for a cool $1 million. There are also stakes beyond prize money. The top two players in the order of merit after the conclusion of the Saudi International will also be fully exempt Live Golf members in 2026. Former Live recruit Scott Vincent is in pole position at the moment, followed by Japan's Yosuke Asaji. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwadi.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Global leaders, African insights. Follow the G20 summit with Channel Africa as it happens.
It is exactly 4:36 Central African time. Addressing a media briefing on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Johannesburg on Friday, European Union President Ursula von der Leyen says the bloc would double down on rules-based trade. She, together with the EU Council President Antonio Costa, have committed to remaining predictable and reliable partners in facing key challenges of trade, financing and climate change. Our reporter, Dimakatso Leshuru, attended the media briefing and joins us live on the line. Dimakatso, a very good afternoon to you. What would you highlight as some of the key takeaways from this briefing?
I think what you've just mentioned now about the EU saying that they are committed to rule-based partnerships, obviously, taking a dig, if you will, at the United States and how they've handled the whole tariff regime issue. And, they've said that they are reliable, they are cooperative and are willing to see African countries or G20 partners also benefit mutually. So they've presented the EU as an alternative, a better partner, if you will, without actually saying so, than the United States, as you are aware of, what's been happening between the United States, not only with South Africa, but also in terms of global trade, where they've created so much tension and uncertainty because of the issue of tariffs. So that was one of the key things. I mean, they've praised South Africa, the EU President Ursula von der Leyen, saying that they are happy to be here and they are happy that South Africa is embracing multilateralism, and they are. In this process, they will be meeting with the AU in the next week. So they've said that they are committed to helping the AU or African countries unlock the potential that the continent has, and dealing with that issue that's been raised so much this year, the issue of debt and how that is hampering growth in all these countries.
And it's quite interesting you mentioned that, Dimakatso. Yesterday here on Africa in Business, we had a conversation with the president of the Pan-African Parliament, and he was talking to us as well about relations with the European Parliament and, ensuring that there's greater synergy between the African continent and Europe. And that clearly now also being demonstrated by the rhetoric between the EU and the meeting with the African Union as well. But going back to the issue at hand, there were some MOUs that were signed by the EU and South Africa. Could you take us through some of those?
Okay, so at the moment we don't have a detail of those. We know that there were agreements and partnerships that were signed. One of them has to do with renewables. As you know, that the issue of electrification remains a key problem, not only in South Africa, but the whole of Africa. So they are talking about scaling up renewables for Africa. You know that the EU is very big on climate change, adaptation, clean energy. So they are making a point that there are about $2 trillion that have been budgeted or invested towards cleaner energy, but only 2% of that is coming onto the African continent, which is weird because this is where the sun is, this is where all the natural resources are for renewables. You know that they are looking into getting those minerals, critical minerals, to also power to transition towards cleaner energy. So those deals, we don't have exact detail of those, but we know that there are partnerships that have been signed. There's one that they will be signing again this afternoon, this evening. They will be making announcements on exactly what are the other or giving finality on those partnerships that they've announced. But at the moment, we don't have detail of that. But we know that they will be making these pledges this evening with President Ramaphosa, and I'm sure we'll find more detail on that as the day progresses.
Dimakatso Lushuru, we'll leave it at that for this afternoon. Thank you so much for that update coming out of the EU briefing. It's exactly 4:41 Central African Time.
This weekend, South Africa will host the G20 summit at the Nazareth Expo Center near Soweto. And Channel Africa will be right there to bring you live updates, interviews, and real-time insights from the main venue. And so, our regular lineup will be adjusted just a little bit for this weekend to accommodate the G20. On Saturday, the 22nd of November, the Oasis will broadcast for 2 hours. Out and About takes a break for a full look at the G20. After Africa Chart Toppers, our news and current affairs team will bring you special live broadcasts in 5 different languages directly from Nazareth. And normal programming will resume at 8 p.m. Central African Time. And then on Sunday, the 23rd of November, the Oasis will also broadcast for 2 hours. Tech Africa steps aside for our news and current affairs teams to bring you special live broadcasts in 5 different languages. Then, Planting the Seed resumes from 1 p.m. till 2 p.m. Central African Time. Channel Africa, your window to the continent, connecting you to the world in an African perspective. From markets to innovation, Africa in Business with Tami Ngubeni covers it all. With Africa's future in focus, Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is exactly 4:42 Central African Time. Now, world leaders have started arriving in Johannesburg for the G20 Leaders Summit. The summit is taking place at the Nasrec Expo Center this weekend, starting on Saturday and ending on Sunday. Members from the world's largest economies are expected to come up with a declaration. This is after months of meetings as well as discussions on the various issues that affect the globe. Channel Africa's reporter Nhlanhla Mahlangu is at the Expo Center. Very good afternoon to you, Nhlanhla. All eyes on Nasrec. But what is currently happening on the ground where you are? Are preparations at the final stages now?
Good afternoon, Tani, and good afternoon to the listeners. Indeed, we are at the Nasrec Expo Center where final preparations are underway ahead of the big G20 summit that is being hosted on the African soil for the very first time. It is a hive of activity at the Nasrec Expo Center with various media houses already having set up their broadcasting studios. Some are currently broadcasting from this venue. They're welcoming delegates who have been pre-arranged for them just to preview what we can expect to unfold as the summit gets underway officially tomorrow, Tammy.
And what is the atmosphere like? Are people feeling quite settled that this is indeed going to go according to plan? And I wonder if there has been any impact on the back and forth between South Africa and the United States. What are you hearing on the ground?
From where I'm sitting, there's excitement ahead of this summit. Everybody is just alluding to the fact that this is big. This is one of the biggest conferences that South Africa has hosted. South Africa is known to have hosted quite a few conferences, but not to this magnitude where we have just over 18 heads of state that are expected to arrive. In fact, more than that, because we also expecting African heads of state, even though the official number and the names has not been officially released to the media. We are expecting to have that list later this evening when President Cyril Ramaphosa has the meeting with the expected African heads of state. But from where we are, there is excitement with the various media houses, waiting in anticipating in anticipation of the big summit to get underway.
And I tell you what, and I tell you what, Nhlanhla, as you're saying, many media houses waiting in anticipation. We've got another media house that's also waiting in anticipation. And tomorrow we will be bringing a blow-by-blow coverage of the G20 Leaders Summit alongside Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. And we're delighted this afternoon to be joined on the line by Kolawole Faladun and Ola Awe. A very good afternoon to you, and great to be chatting with you. What are the excitement levels in Nigeria and reactions ahead of the very first G20 to be held on African soil? Welcome. Kolawole? I can certainly hear that there is a connection on the other side. Oh, there you go. Is this Kolawole? Ola?
Yeah, this is Kolawole Falodin from Lagos Talks 91.3 here in Lagos, Nigeria.
Great to be talking to you. This is Tami from Africa in Business on Channel Africa, and we also have our reporter Nhlanhla Mahlangu, who is on the ground actually at Nasrec, where the G20 will be taking place tomorrow. So we are going to be broadcasting live there tomorrow along with you. But I'm wondering, what are the reactions like from Nigerians to the very first G20 to be held on African soil?
I mean, first things first, I believe there's a lot of excitement from the angle, seeing that this is happening for the very first time in Africa, and our neighbors and brothers on the continent, South Africa, will be hosting nations of the world. So in that light, it's an exciting feel right here in Nigeria. But contrastingly, we've had some internal situations that would see our president not attend this year's G20 summit. So that's also kind of like spoiling the party to an extent. But seeing that South Africa is doing this is giving a lot of hope to nations in Africa, and it's also very much evident here in Nigeria that we just might be seeing a situation where more African nations will be joining the roundtable for G20.
And I have to follow up with that. And could you give us some more details around the non-attendance of the Nigerian president?
Okay, so over the past couple of weeks, we've seen some issues bordering on insecurity, and a lot of people have had their own fair share of sentiment and opinion, saying that this is a very integral internal issue that the president shouldn't treat as a light issue. But I would hand it over to my colleague Olaoluwa Awe to throw some more light on this.
Yes, just like you mentioned, there's been a number of security challenges, and we're talking about a church attack, we're talking about abduction at schools, and I mean, these are really serious issues, and that is amid the conversation around Christian genocide. You know, that has been, it has fast become a global an issue of global concern. You know, at some point, U.S. President Donald Trump, tweeted or made a post saying that it might just have to, the U.S. military will have to intervene, one way or the other. And there's been debates around the sovereignty that Nigeria as a country has, and how the two countries should find more diplomatic ways to work together. So there's just been a lot going on, and we hope that it will still make the event, but I mean, we are we are just looking out for what will happen coming.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly sounds like the domestic pressures and the domestic responsibilities of the president are not going to allow him to come through, as you've said. But the good news is there is a delegation that is going to be coming to South Africa, led by Vice President Kashim Shettima. So the fact that Nigerian voice will still be here, I think that also makes quite a marked difference as well. Perhaps let's touch base with our reporter, Nhlanhla Mahlangu, who is still at Nasrec. I wonder, Nhlanhla, have you been seeing any of the delegates walking around? We know that the summit begins in earnest tomorrow, but have you seen any of the delegates walking around, and maybe specifically from the African continent? Nhlanhla?
Not at the moment, Tammy. From what we are hearing, the delegation of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has just cut down around the Nasrec Expo Center. They are just waiting for the shuttle and an escort for them to be brought this side. He's expected to host a media briefing in the next 10 to 15 minutes, but due to the delays of them getting to the actual venue where this conference is scheduled to take place, it remains to be seen exactly what time they are here. But from the security personnel that we've engaged with around this area where we are, he did say that his delegation is here. He's also present here because he is expected to address the media. But other than that, we saw earlier on the Minister of Women and Children, Ms. Cindy Siwe, who was around this particular center doing various interviews. Today, I'm sure you are aware, Tammy, there has been a few protests around the country in light of the scourge of GBV in South Africa. So she was just responding to those protests, silent protests that have been happening throughout the country. But other than that, we are expecting a bit of movement later today when the delegation of UN Secretary General finally arrives at this Nasrec Expo Center, Tammy.
Thank you very much, Nhlanhla Mahlangu, reporting live to us from the Nasrec Expo Center, where the G20 Leaders Summit kicks off in earnest tomorrow. And I must say, Kolawole and Olaula, that we certainly look forward to the simulcast that will be broadcasting alongside yourselves as Lagos Talks 91.3 FM tomorrow. We all will be coming live from Nasrec in Johannesburg. You have yourselves a splendid afternoon further.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Kolawole Folodun and Olaula Awe from Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. They take us to exactly 4:52 Central African time as the countdown continues.
This weekend, South Africa will host the G20 Summit at the Nasrec Expo Center near Soweto. And Channel Africa will be right there to bring you live updates, interviews, and real-time insights from the main venue. And so, our regular lineup will be adjusted just a little bit for this weekend to accommodate the G20. On Saturday, the 22nd of November, the Oasis will broadcast for 2 hours. Out and About takes a break for a full look at the G20. After Africa Chart Toppers, our news and current affairs team will bring you special live broadcasts in 5 different languages directly from Nasrec. And normal programming will resume at 8 p.m. Central African Time. And then on Sunday, the 23rd of November, the Oasis will also broadcast for 2 hours. Tech Africa steps aside for our news and current affairs teams to bring you special live broadcasts in 5 different languages. Then, Planting the Seed resumes from 1 p.m. till 2 p.m. Central African Time. Channel Africa, your window to the continent, connecting you to the world in an African perspective. From markets to innovation, Africa in Business with Tami Ngubeni covers it all. With Africa's future in focus, Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is exactly 4:54 Central African Time. We say bonjour.
Bonjour Tammy, bonjour à tous les auditeurs de Channel Africa. Alors Tammy, sur Vue d'Afrique, on parlera du Niger, plusieurs ONG, associations de développement suspendues. Et nous parlerons également du leader séparatiste biafrais Nnamdi Kanu, reconnu jeudi coupable de terrorisme. Et aussi, nous parlerons de plusieurs pays face à l'insécurité. Plusieurs demandeurs d'asile, je veux dire du Burkina Faso, plusieurs demandeurs d'asile burkinabés et maliens obtiennent des statuts de réfugiés en Côte d'Ivoire. C'est sur VuesdAfrique dans quelques temps. Merci, Tammy.
Merci beaucoup, madame. That's VuesdAfrique coming up at the top of the hour. So let's close off with this. The world is preparing for the G20 Leaders Summit this weekend, and senior figures from business, government, as well as technology are gathered in Johannesburg for a high-level dialogue that's taking place on the sidelines of the B20 South Africa Summit. Hosted by Baker McKenzie in partnership with Visa, the session is being held under the theme Commitments to Action, Accelerating Financial Inclusion Through Secure Digital Ecosystems. Channel Africa's economics reporter Innocent Samosa has more.
The event explores how secure digital systems built on trusted data, digital integrity and resilient infrastructure can unlock one of the most powerful drivers of progress. Visa Sub-Saharan Africa's Lineshri Moodley says a seamless digital payment system has the potential to significantly support entrepreneurs across the continent.
When we look at creating seamless digital solutions, the benefit of it is that as more people come into the financial ecosystem, you then start to see the transactions. There's transparency in that. And with that, it provides the opportunity for them to get access to capital, either through working, with fintechs or with financial institutions. And these types of things allow them to grow and scale their businesses. The second part of having digital payments is that you can enable payments that is not just in the geography where you're working. Using, e-commerce as an example allows you as an entrepreneur to get access to countries outside of the borders in where you are operating.
She's calling on G20 nations to step up their support for entrepreneurs.
I think one of the key things when we look at entrepreneurs is providing support. When we look at our continent, as well as our country, South Africa, we know that SMEs are the lifeblood of the economy, yet a lot of them need help to grow and scale their businesses. So some of the things I would expect to see is, one, support for SMEs in terms of providing access to funding so that they can grow their businesses, they can scale. The second part is providing them with tools and education on how do you manage the business.
Ashlyn Perumal, a partner of Baker McKenzie South Africa and head of firm's technology practice, underscores the importance of accelerating financial inclusion through secure digital ecosystems.
I think it's incredibly important. I think as the future becomes more unpredictable with new challenges, whether it be geopolitical, technology-wise, or otherwise, we need leadership to start stepping up and setting the tone in terms of what are the key issues that need addressing. How do we create coalitions and environments where we can create opportunities for startups and businesses in those environments, but also ultimately create solutions for users which are much needed in Africa, particularly around issues like what we're talking about today on financial inclusion, on issues such as digital transformation. These are absolutely key, but they're very, very hard to create investment around, bankable investment around, unless we have governance, unless we have forward strategy from leadership in Africa at the moment. So I think it's incredibly important.
He's advocating for bringing more people into the financial inclusion net.
I think I would want to answer that question from the perspective of including more people in giving them access to credit, access to financial resources. And for me, anything that can get financial institutions to bring more people on board legitimately to get access to credit, that would be important.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Samos in Johannesburg.
It is exactly 4:58 Central African time, and that's how we as Africa in Business bow out for this Friday and indeed this week. I look forward to being with you once again tomorrow, where we'll be broadcasting live from the G20 Leaders Summit in Nasrec, Johannesburg. From myself, Tammy Ngubeni, and the entire Africa in Business team, give yourself a splendid afternoon further as we hand the reins over now to VuesdAfrique.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Tammy Ngubeni.